Virgo, hi, come on in. Great to see you for this month, for your Virgo, November 2019 reading. I'm looking forward to that. Before I start, I will mention that I have uploaded your 2020 yearly reading. Now you can find that either on the playlist on my channel or just search Nigel Virgo 2020 and that will take you to the video. It's an extended video, so sit back and enjoy yourself. Take about an hour, I think. There's a lot of ground being covered. Let us see what there is in store for you today. I'm using this Thoth tarot deck. You may be familiar with it. A lot of people are frightened by it. No need to be. You're in good hands here. I will use my pen to point out maybe a couple of the interesting esoteric images that may appear in cards from time to time if I think it's appropriate, because sometimes they do add to the meaning of the messages which are coming through. It allows me to refine the message to make it more appropriate for you. But let's get this underway, shall we? There we go. A little bit of practical magic. Let's see what there is in store. What's going to jump out? Something going to come out? This is coming out, whatever this may be. There is the Four of Swords. Virgo, very dear to my heart, Virgo, for a number of reasons, which I shall go into at another time because I'm in the midst of this at the moment. Now there's the Lovers card, which is a great card for you in this month of November, of course. Thanksgiving in the United States. There is the Tower. This Tower, look, a lot of people are frightened by the Tower. This actually has a very, very good message to say for you. I've got the energy coming through already, and in particular with the other two cards that are around it. But I'll get to that in just 1 second. So let's see what else there is here for you, shall we? Hope you're having a good month. Let's have a look. That's Leaping Art. There is Adjustment. Major Arcana. You have 3 Major Arcana out of 4 cards drawn so far. So it's obviously a significant month for you. And here is indeed another Major Arcana, the Wheel of Fortune. So why don't you come and sit down next to me, have a look at these cards. I'll point out some of the really interesting things about them and I'll do your reading for you. Okay, Virgo, here we go. Now, just let me reach behind and pull this deck down. I'm not going to use this deck, but I just want it to sit here and learn, if you like. It's just one of my shamanistic practices. Let me first deal with this card here, Adjustment. It's underpinning the left column, and let's have a look at it from this Thoth deck. Well, how very interesting it is indeed. Let's see what some of the imagery may have in store for us. Here is Lady Justice. She's holding a sword down here between her legs. Clearly that is a phallic symbol because this is also very much about creation, this card. The scales here have, you may be able to make it out, a sign with the letter A, that is Alpha, and a symbol, the Greek letter Omega, so the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end of the cycle of life. Here we have the color green very much throughout the card, and green and blue here. They are the colors of Venus, and Venus is the planet that rules Libra. And so I very much have Venus ruling Libra with Saturn exalted. These chains that are holding up the scales are colored black, and they are the color of Saturn, hence my astrological attribution to the card. Now, you may see a bunch of diamonds up the top here which form part of this curtain. She has broken through the curtain. You can see the yellow space behind her, so she's come through this curtain of diamonds. These diamonds represent the female hymen, and the hymen has been broken to permit fertilization and creation. And so we very much do have a fertile card here, one which is about balance, creation, life revolving around and around. The daughter of the Lords of Truth, the ruler of the balance, I call this card. And as I say, it's very much Venus ruling Libra with Saturn exalted. Now, Libra emphasizes the energy that the energy of this card is all about balance and equilibrium. This letter down here, and I'll just come in a bit closer to, so you might be able to see it. This is a Hebrew letter from Hebrew text. The letter is Lamed, and it means like a stick that you poke ox and cattle with. So what this card is also talking about is that sometimes, and when cattle are being poked by a stick to move in a certain way, it's as if you are, in a sense, being poked to move in a certain way by fate, by the energies which are around you and which are for your good. I think it's also important to say that this card is really therefore about self-control, and you having self-control during this period. Very much the energy that's coming up is that of justice, of balance, maybe of you adjusting some things in your life or some parts of your personality. The suspension of action is also something that I'm getting, and that suspension of action is, I think while you're making your mind up about something, making your mind up about a course of action to take, or whether something is right for you, or whether you want to have this thing or that thing. You could refer to also, I think, this card for anybody who's involved in lawsuits or divorces or contractual matters. These things are being worked through during this period, and I think that they're all going in the right direction, to be honest. I think that I'm just having this thought that comes through. Even if I wander from you, you are there. Your pleasure ever leads me into the depths of you. Your chastening hand is the caress of reclaiming me. I walk through the alley of hell in the byways of my deeds, and the stifling heat is the clasp of your embrace, of the holding me tight unto you. It's a good time, I think, to write. Maybe a journal, or if you are of a literary bent, it's certainly a time where you'll have, I think, inspiration and creativity in that type of area. I think it can also represent leadership. I think that people will see you as being a leader in some particular field. It's very much what I'm getting up in this period. It can also, I think, represent cutting through the dross of everyday life, and you're making your decision about what is important and what is not important. And I think you'll be doing some sort of a constant reassessment of things as a result during this period. Let's look at the card above it, because this is interesting. This is the card which is the Four of Swords. Now, swords, as you know, is air, and the swords cards are all about, well, in a nutshell, I suppose you could say that they're about the mind. And if we look at the imagery here, we see, well, against a blue background, which I, in this card, associate it's more of a lilac. I associate with the planet of Jupiter. And one can, as a sort of the air background that's there, is one associated with Jupiter. These yellow symbols scattered all over the card represent air themselves, and they're quite chaotic, aren't they? Here we have the color green coming in again, which has got an association with Venus, and so I see Libra here. So I see Jupiter ruling the third decan of Libra. You know, that 14th of October to the 22nd of October? The Lord of Rest from Strife is what I call this card. There is, well, I just happen to know that this petal that's in the middle here this flower has 49 petals, and that number is associated esoterically with the planet of Venus. And so I'm confident that Libra is the sign. These four swords, the hilts. Now, these things here, you probably won't be able to make it out, but they are symbols that represent earth, air, fire, and water, the four symbols of life. And look at these swords, the tips. The swords aren't lashing around about to stab you or anybody else. They are, in fact, embedded, almost enfolded within the comforting arms of this flower that's there. So they are put away from any battle. And so I think what we have is really the rest, this period of rest, I think mental rest and respite, which is going through you at the moment. Now, Jupiter ruling the third decan of Libra. Well, what can we say about it? Let me pull this out a bit here. I think that Libra tries to find balance in your life. The need for balance, though, can sometimes induce unrest. And Libra can also induce indecisiveness from time to time. Jupiter, however, coming in here, I think is giving you a period of rest from a difficult situation, and you'll know what that is. Mentally, it's mental rest that you're getting, as well as it really opening your higher mind's flexibility, which is needed to resolve any conflicts that are going on in your life. And conflicts, I'm saying that in the broad sense, so that you will know what it means for you individually. Now, Jupiter also allows you to move on. The mind, if you like, is negotiating some temporary resolution to things at the moment. There's recuperation, a quiet consideration of things which are before you, I think is what's going on. I think that what can also be said about here is that there's calm, you're feeling centered, clarity is what I'm getting, integration of your thoughts. It's as if you're letting your thoughts come together and you're integrating them in a way which starts to make sense to you. I think there is some need for you to take some time out from a stressful situation, even a holiday, to recharge your batteries. It's certainly okay to have what I call a mental health break. Now, often, of course, the factors that give rise to conflict don't go away, but I think that it's necessary for you to take time out and away from those factors that could be giving rise to conflict in your mind. Conflict in your mind. It's a sort of a thought in your mind that's been going on. Oh, what am I going to do? How's this going to work out? Maybe even a sort of a worry in a sense, I think. Now, I would make the most of this mental health break, but certainly don't put off anything that needs to be dealt with, those things which are unavoidable, because anything which is unavoidable, if it's not dealt with, of course, just becomes bigger and more challenging, and you should trust your intuition to know when is enough time for you to finish your rest. Make the most of this break to be at your strongest when you need to, well, really face the issues which are at hand. And I would have this thought in mind during this period, that is, I am at peace within myself. Now, interestingly, let's have a look at this card here, the Tower. This is Major Arcana. In fact, the balance of the cards for you, like that card adjustment, they are all Major Arcana. So there's There's certainly, this is certainly a month for you when things are, well, important things are underway. They may not necessarily be making themselves known to you at this time, but the seeds, the foundations are all coming down. Let's have a look at this card here. Well, for me, it is Mars in full attack mode, that warrior planet which is setting out to destroy the tower. There is a Hebrew letter down the bottom here which means mouth, and if you look at this object here, that looks like a mouth. Now, I'm just trying to think. Look, it's a minor Greek god who had this big mouth, and I won't go into it. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 flames coming out of it. Now, 10 brings it into the material world. There's a bringing, something is happening in the material world for you at the moment. Something is being broken down or dissolved to do with your standard of living or way of thinking about things. To continue the messages, those 10 there, I notice that in this little window here there are 10 window frames, which is also going along with that. That's interesting, isn't it? There are 1, 2, 3, 4 figures which are, well, on one view falling from the tower, but on another view I think really they are escaping from the tower, because the tower, rather than being something which is necessarily a good thing to be inside of, it can also be a prison. It can be a prison and you are escaping from it. Here is a serpent and here is a dove. This reflects the active principle of love. This reflects the receptive principle of love. This eye coming up here is, well, it really refers to me to the eye of Shiva, the god in Hinduism, which is part of the Hindu Trinity, and that aspect of the Godhead in the Hindu religion. And from it are coming a number of bolts, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, 5 as a number for me is associated with the planet of Mars. And so there again we have that reinforcing energy, that energy from Mars coming in. Well, that's all very interesting, but what does it mean? What does it mean? Well, I think it means release. I think it means revelation. I think it means the breaking down of old forms or patterns. And maybe even, I think, a calm after the storm. And here is that card, which is also there, isn't it? And there's that calm, that's that rest from calm, and this is talking about balance. So it may well be that there has been something going on which is now being represented. Oh, did I mention what the name of that letter was? That it's Pei, that letter in the Hebrew, which means mouth. I'm just having this thought which is coming through. Strike, oh, take me now in an instant. Strike with the passionate strength of thy love to overwhelm this silly thought I have of thee, this struggling artifice. Flood the channels of my nerves with the lightning current of thyself. Yeah, okay. I think you should have these thoughts in mind during this period. Who I think I am is a belief to be undone. I have the ability to heal and restore myself at all times. Now, that's important for you, because I sometimes think, well, I think you properly have a good interest in your health, and know that you do have the ability to heal and to have good health. I think it's a time also perhaps of turmoil or destruction as you seek to understand how you could have been so mistaken about a person or a situation. And emotions like anger, grief, or depression can sometimes appear when that happens, and You might also think that, oh, look, my comfortable world will never be the same again, but it is. I mean, this is just something which is in your mind. The important message here is that with the destruction of the old comes the new, and you can eventually look at life in a more meaningful way, which makes you wiser. You see, this was also talking about that cycle of things moving through, in this case of birth and death, and, well, actually there are other cards which are also talking about this, so this is a particularly interesting time for you, I think. I think what can happen here is that there may be some sort of a major internal change which is coming through, almost as if the divine spirit is moving through your psyche and burning out anything which is fake. Now, this dove here, I think, can also represent compassion. So be easy on yourself as you change, as you metamorphosize, as it were, from a caterpillar into a butterfly. All of life is a process of reconciling to unity, of oneness. And this card, which comes up next, reaffirms this. This is the card of the Lovers. Now, what can one say about the Lovers? I suppose the first thing to say about it, and I'll just make a comment about love itself, and I'd say that, sisters, brothers, have no fear of sin. Love a man even if his sin, even in his sin. Love him even in his sin, for that is the semblance of divine love when you do that, and is the highest love on earth. Love all of God's creation, the whole and every grain of sand in it. Love every leaf, every ray of God's light, every animal, every plant. Love everything. If you love everything, you will perceive the divine mystery in things. Once you perceive it, you will begin to understand it better every day, and you will come at last to love the whole world in an all-embracing love. And people sometimes say to me, well, is that possible to occur? And I say, well, yes, because one day you will fall to the ground weeping, and suddenly it will all make sense to you. Anyway, let's have a look at the symbology, or some of the symbology on this card. The reason why I say some of the symbology of it is because this is an extremely complicated card from an esoteric point of view. A lot of it is to do with alchemy, which I'm not going to go into now because I doubt that you've got a great interest in chemical elements and how they might interact with one another. Let's look at some of the things here. This figure here represents Eve. This figure here represents Lilith. Now, you may have heard of the woman Lilith. There is there are rumors around that Lilith is actually the first woman that was created by God. And of course, if you actually pick up the New Testament, or the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible, Genesis, of course, the first woman, of course, is Eve, and Lilith doesn't appear. Lilith, in fact, is an invention from the Middle East, from Iran or from Iraq, which was almost like a demon. And she appears in Jewish mythology, but it's certainly not the first woman that was created, although in some circles she does have a part to play in some of the mythological stories connected with, as I understand it, the Jewish religion. But what is important is that Eve represents life, Lilith represents death. Here we have Cupid, who is blindfolded, and he's got his arrow, which is about will. He's blindfolded because Cupid is saying that I am drawn to others, even without seeing it, because this is the first card in the major arcana in this deck where we have more than one person involved in the scenery. Because this card is all about division. It's about when you come into matter, when you become incarnate, you go from being unified in spirit with the divinity, and you come, so as to learn, you come into matter and you take a gender or a variation of a gender, and you perceive individuality rather than oneness. And what happens, of course, is then that your soul, of course, always craves reunion, which is why we have attraction between people. Here is in this case, it's the emperor marrying the empress. I won't go into the symbolical meaning of the crowns. On his cloak here, which represents fire, he has what they call the infinity symbol. And on her cloak, she has a bunch of bees, which talks about creativity. Here we have a couple of, twins, I suppose. Well, a couple of twins. It's a tautology, of course, a couple of twins. Here we have twins. One a twin of colour and the other a twin of lighter shade. The lion here, notice how his tail is sticking up from between his legs. It's almost... Look, the fact is, there is just a lot of sexual imagery in tarot and thought, because, of course, sexuality is so crucially important to women and men. It sticks up. It's in 5 sort of bits sticking out of it. It sticks up like an erect phallus. And this bird here, the eagle, the exalted form of Scorpio, is white. Here is what they call the world egg, or the Orphic egg. Now, this symbol is one which is... Well, it's all over the ancient world and ancient spiritual thought. It is thought that whether you call it the Orphic egg, which was the Greek tradition prior to they're really getting into the Olympic tradition of Zeus and all the other gods, where there was an egg that was born on the waters, that was placed on the waters, and from the egg emerged the beginning of life, of the universe. And you might say, well, how could that be so if it was placed on the waters? There must have been something there before. The waters were there before. This is a symbol which is part of Hinduism. It's also part of Greek and Roman mythology all over the Middle and Near East, and in other parts of the world, and particularly in the tradition of the West. Now, you might also recall that from the first chapter even of the book of Genesis in the Hebrew Bible, or the Christian Old Testament, says that when God began to create the earth, it was just void, and the wind of God hovered over the waters. So that book itself also refers to water being pre-existing. The person who is doing the marriage here is the hermit. And what is interesting is he's holding his hands out like this. And you may see me do that from time to time when I'm starting at the tarot reading. I bring in the spiritual energy, place them into the cards. It's a hermetic and shaman practice. Look, the thing is that what this card is saying to me is that I really think that you have got some sort of a major life choice coming up ahead of you now. I mean, a serious major life choice. I'll also say that it is one that may not even be apparent to you. I call this card... I call it the children of the voice divine, the oracle of the mighty gods. And the meaning of this card really centers around the reconciliation of opposites. For me, it is Mercury ruling Gemini. Here are these twins, which are Gemini, with Dragon's Head, exalted. Dragon's Head, as you might recall, is that north node of the moon. So I think there's going to be a need for you to look at all angles before making a decision. You could well be a mediator or a peacemaker during this period. People will be coming to you asking for your help. There'll be a need to make a major life choice in the direction ahead of you, and there could well be a mutual sexual attraction going on. But again, this is a major arcana card, so it's not one which is going to be a one-night stand. It's something that's going to go on from there. I'd say that you should have this thought in mind, and it is, I honor the sacred within me. I am inspired by learning and teaching. I am creative and productive in my family and professional life. You'll be very gifted at imparting information to people, and you'll be, I think, actually quite committed to the concept of community and of bringing people around and bringing people together. Very much that sort of activity going on. That can also be in family situations and work situations, but great teamwork going on. The Wheel of Fortune is, for me, Jupiter here, the Lord of the forces of life, good fortune. There's not a lot to say about this card, really, other than this lilac-y colour in the background refers to Jupiter, of course. Here is the Sphinx on the top. One animal on this side, one going that way. Which direction is it going to go? We don't know. This is talking about a good change in fortune for you, and it's almost as if it's destiny. I turned around 3 times in every way, and always I came at last unto you, for you are hidden in everything I love, in all that I desire. I think you should maybe think about the possibility that there's great opportunity coming your way now. Be ready to act on unexpected opportunity. When times are good, stay centered, because, you know, this wheel can go any direction in life, can't it? And so you can either get carried up or you can get squashed underneath it. But if you're in the middle, then nothing happens to you. Change is about to happen. You may need to alter your present course of action or change things around you to set the stage for the right outcomes to come into your life. Think to yourself, I am a prosperous individual. I am flexible in times of change. I enjoy manifesting internal abundance externally. Abundance which created me is what I am. I am now ready for the miracle in my life. Situations are moving forward in your benefit now, and that's a great thing to have at this time of the year, particularly for those people who've got Thanksgiving and the joy that goes with that with friends and family. That's the way it is for you this month.
Well, there you go. There is your November 2019 reading. And look, I thought that was fantastic. I really enjoyed doing that. Extremely interesting for me to be able to do that. I love this deck, and I love the messages that were coming through for you. I think that I think you're going to have a great month. Look, the only other thing that remains for me to say is this, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, bye for now.